Hello everyone, thank you for subscribing to the B. Richter's Movie Corner. I'm going to do a little something different that I have not done yet. So I'm going to see how this works out. If it doesn't work out, I may just end it here after this video. But I wanted to try something where I'm going to talk about a movie, and I'm going to do it in like 3 parts. I'm going to like the beginning of how I started to watch it, and then so on and so forth as we go along. They'll probably be 18, 19 minutes long, each one of them. So, first one here is, before I get into talking about this film, as you can see behind me, I've got a new setup here. Got some Pop Funko movies thing. You got Jason, you got Ginger Daryl and Daryl Dixon's Chopper, and you got some Rambo and Alien Nation and She-Wolf of London, and you got other Friday the 13th. So, as you could probably tell by the beginning of this title screen, this is going to be a discussion about Friday the 13th, the 1980 classic film that started the whole franchise, which contained, you got 2 through 8, and then you have Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Forever Jason, Friday the 13th remake, possibly another film coming out next year, who knows. Basically the series, I'm not really going to go into detail as far as how the series has started out, and how much movie it grossed, because you can look at Crystal Lake Memories, the book, or the DVD Blu-ray combo, and you can know all that stuff. But basically what I'm going to talk about is, before I got it, 1985 was the year that I started liking movies, and then around 86, 87 I started getting into horror films. 1989 is when I first saw Friday the 13th. So yeah, that was 27 years ago. Actually, next month it'll be 27 years since I first saw the first Friday the 13th movie. People, when I was in junior high and high school and elementary school at that time, back in the 80s, a lot of people were talking about how Jason Voorhees was a killer and he killed these camp counselors and stuff like that. Well, being as a parent, and my parents wouldn't allow me to watch horror movies. I mean, I did get to see some horror movies, whether it being staying at my uncle's place, where I had this big ass satellite back then in the 80s, where he could get channels and get a descrambler and descramble channels and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's actually when I started watching horror movies, was at his place. And then around 87, 88, I started watching PG-13 movies, where my mom allowed me to watch them at the video store. Back then, where I lived, the video store was called the Video Barn, or we had a Video Express is what we had, where I lived at when I was a kid. But anyway, so 1989 is when I first saw the first Friday the 13th. And I kind of had to stretch the truth, or should I say lie, in order to get to see it. Well, my mom and dad had gotten divorced, gotten separated. He lived in a trailer out in the boonies of West Union, and my mom lived in the town of West Union. That's Ohio. So basically, I told my I told my dad that I wanted to see the Friday the 13th films, and that my mom allowed me to watch them because you could have cable when you lived in the town of West Union. So basically, I kind of like lied so I could see the Friday the 13th movies, and then that weekend that I told him, he went and rented the first 3 Friday the 13th movies. So that's what led me into getting into the Friday the 13th franchise films. And then after I had went back from that weekend to my mom's, I had told him that I had watched them, and she said, well, okay, I guess if your dad says it's okay, then I guess you can watch it here too. So basically, that led on for years and years and years until I finally told him the truth in it. So, yeah, 1989 was when I originally saw Friday the 13th. And my first impressions of first seeing it then I was 13 years old. Let me just say this. When I was watching it, I was pretending to already know what was going on, and like it wasn't shocking me into, because what I had done. But inside, I'm like, yes, I like this movie. So, and in the way that they portrayed some of the kills, and the acting wasn't that bad, and and kind of like a mystery suspense where you're like trying to find out who the killer is, which we all know was not Jason Voorhees, even though he does show up at the end of the film, and so on and so forth. You know the rest of the story there. Getting into the film itself, the very beginning of the movie. Remember, when I saw this, it was a VHS copy. So back then we didn't have DVD or Blu-ray as we do in today's society. But the VHS tape was kind of dark, so some of the scenes in the beginning of the movie you really couldn't tell. Like when it says Camp Crystal Lake 1958, I mean, it was so dark you could see some of the lights in the background of the camp, but you couldn't see like certain shadow-like features as the camera pans around to where the kids are lying in the bed and that. You couldn't really tell. But other than that, I mean, it really had a great beginning of the movie. Kind of a little bit of a backstory. You know, comes in there and you see Jason's. You find out later that was Jason's mother, but that he kills these camp counselors, and they're singing the song Tom Dooley, and it pans into where the two counselors go off, and they go up into the cabin, up to the stairs of the cabin, and you know they're messing around, and then the killer comes up there and stabs the guy in the stomach and slices him open, and then the girl, you see her slowly back up, and then it fades to white, and then the Friday the 13th title screen comes up. So that's how the beginning that's how the beginning started, and I thought it was a pretty cool way of starting out a horror film. I mean, like I said, back then I hadn't seen a lot of horror films, and at that time I hadn't seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, any of the Halloweens, any other franchise series at that point. But I wanted to see Friday the 13th first, because at that point it already had been on, or had just gotten the 8th movie released back in August of '89, and I had started September of '89. So before I go on to that, by the end of '89, I had seen all 7 Friday the 13th movies. So when Part 8 came out, and I believe it was February or March of '90, I had already been caught up, and when I rented that Part 8 in 1990, and I was caught up. So then I just waited for 3 more years to see a Friday the 13th in the theater, which was Jason Goes to Hell. Well, that's another story. But so after the beginning credits, where you have the counselors getting killed, and then it goes into present day, where you see a counselor by the name of Annie, played by Robbie Morgan, which, I mean, she has been at conventions and stuff. I've never gotten to meet her yet, but I would like to one day. And she's walking down to the Crystal Lake, and the scene where she films is actually, a lot of people already know this, but was in New Jersey. And so I would like to go and visit that town in New Jersey. So I'm trying to remember what the name of that city was. Blairstown, New Jersey was actually where they filmed Friday the 13th, which a lot of people already know that as well. They filmed in a Boy Scout camp and all and so forth. But she's walking down the street, and it's like daylight time, and she runs into this dog, which, as you can remember in the books and the companion piece of Crystal Lake Memories, you find out that the dog is really Sean S. Cunningham's dog at that time. And there's the old gas station pump. It was like a big red thing, and it's nothing like they have the pumps today, where they're electronical and all that other stuff. And I always find when I watch movies from the 80s or even earlier than that, sometimes even in the early 90s, the things that went on, like the way pops look like, the way gas pumps, and the way cars, the way the clothes and all that, it's just definitely just dated at that time, whether it be the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, whatever. And that's one aspect of horror movies, as well as any other movie that in the past that I enjoy, is looking like, say, somebody's drinking a Coke. Well, back then the Cokes looked totally different than when they look today. Same thing that goes for televisions. Back then they had the sit-down television, and it was, you sat on the floor and you watched it like that, or it was was a smaller screen and it was like puffed out on the back. Now you got these big flat screens and so on and so forth. But yeah, that was pretty cool. She walked down there, sees the gas pump, and she walks into this little department store. And what's funny is I found when I originally saw that scene, I was like, okay, what's going to happen now? You know, she's going to this town. She asks how to get to Camp Crystal Lake, and these people don't really want to talk about it. So, okay, so you're like, let me think about this. Either they know something that she doesn't know, or there's something they don't want to discuss. Well, basically, only one guy ends up taking her there, and he's telling her about they tried to start up the camp, and their water went bad. They started fires, and then their kid drowned in the lake, which you later find out was Jason. Excuse me, got a sneeze there. But anyway, yeah. So she goes to that little department store, which is actually, I don't know if I think it still stands today in Blairstown, but I don't think it's the same like kind of shop that it was 36 years. Where actually this film was made in 1979, so 37 years ago. She talks to the one guy, and what I find out years later, the one guy that's standing behind the counter holding a broom, that's Irwin Keyes, the late Irwin Keyes, who unfortunately passed away last year. He wasn't even billed in the movie. If you watch it in the credits, he's not even billed. And I know who that is, I mean, because I've seen him in other movies prior to that. You know, don't want to go into details with that, but maybe the Flintstones and Frankenstein's General Hospital, which was a comedy about Frankenstein in a soap opera setting. Anyway, but yeah, he talks to this one guy named Enos, played by the late Rex Everhart, who happened to be the voice of Belle's daughter, or Belle's father in Beauty and the Beast. He was Belle's father in Beauty and the Beast. He passed away in 2000. So she said, okay, well, I'll give you a ride. And before she goes get into the semi, or not a semi truck, but this truck, which is kind of like a trying to think, like an oil maybe truck, because it's got like oil on the side of the side of the vehicle there. And before they get in there, this crazy guy named Crazy Ralph, played by the late Walt Gorney, who passed away in 2004, says, "You're all doomed." And the old Enos, the truck driver, saying, "Get out of here, man. You know, just." And then he tells the girl, "Just ignore that guy. That guy's a crazy old guy." And you find out he shows up later in the film. But Walt Gorney played it definitely. He was definitely great in that. When I originally saw that, I kind of chuckled because seeing somebody playing "You're all doomed," you know, and it's a death curse. You know, at that point, I had not seen many horror films, as I said before, but I thought that was pretty cool how they did that little setup. Don't go into these woods; you'll be death cursed. You'll be killed. And but yeah, so he helps her into the vehicle, and then they start driving, and he tells her about the fires and the water went bad, and Steve Christy trying to reopen in the camp, which happens to be a friend who helped. What's kind of odd is that Steve Christy, you don't really find much about his character because he's like more of a mystique about him. You don't know whether he knew that Jason's mother was crazy, or part of his family or something. You probably, if you're watching this video, maybe you can give me any inclination of what you would think that was going on with Steve Christy, because I mean, he opens a camp. Does he know? Does he realize that Jason's mother killed these camp counselors, or was it his family members that knew about it? Or I mean, he's got to know something, because you don't really know much about the character other than that he has a thing for Alice. Yeah, so they're on the way. But the one thing I want to say is, right when I mean, I know this was 1979 when they filmed it, and it came out in 1980, but the truck driver helps her into the truck and gives her a boost by touching her ass. Okay, now I know that it was in a time period that was a lot different than it is today, but that was kind of odd to put that in the scene. Here, I don't know you, but I'm going to touch your ass and put you in the car. Okay. Interesting. But anyway, he goes to the one spot and he finds out there's this where the cemetery, and he drops her off, and she starts to walk down this road. And in the meantime, there's a blue Jeep coming down the street as she's walking and picks her up. You don't see who it is. You don't know, the person in the driving doesn't talk. But Annie starts talking and say, "I need to go to Crystal Lake," so she gets in the car. And in the process, she realizes that the person driving went past Crystal Lake, and she keeps telling her to stop. So she jumps out of the vehicle while it's driving, and she starts to head off into the woods. And the Jeep stops and backs up and gets out. She's running through the woods, and she ends up getting pinned up against a tree. She falls down and she stands up against a tree, and you see the knife, and then all of a sudden it cuts her throat. Well, like I said, back then when you watch VHS, you really couldn't tell the way the makeup or the effect happened, because with today's technology and the way they made the black scenes brighter on the DVDs and the Blu-rays, is that you got to see this part of the skin where they cut the neck was actually discolored on the bottom part than the top part. But yeah, so back then when you watch it, you look really, really cool. But now you've seen it millions of times and different variations of physical media and all that. It kind of, it doesn't give out the mystique about the kill of that scene, which was done by Tom Savini, great makeup artist. In the one scene where she cuts a hand, you see the hand, and it's got like a ring on the finger, which I don't know if they were intended to do that, or if it just happened to be at that point in time that there was a ring on the finger. But anyway, so in closing for this first part, you've already got led up to the beginning of the movie. You led up to where Annie goes to the camp, and I told you how I got into horror movies and how my first impressions of Friday the 13th. Before I go off stop on this video, it is I probably will do the second video either later today or tomorrow, but I haven't forgot to do my movie reviews. I will be doing those. I just wanted to try something new on this video, and so in closing, I'm going to stop it here, and you will see part 2 either later today or tomorrow, and that will be discussing as Annie goes, after Annie had got killed, people at the camp, and Crazy Ralph coming in, and all this other stuff. So, well, if you enjoyed this video, please give this a like. If you don't enjoy this video, please give it a like anyway. And I will catch you on part 2 of my discussion of Friday the 13th. And enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for subscribing.